Per usual, living on the shelf for educational purposes only. It is not intended as financial advice. It is Sunday once again here. That means it is Setup Sunday. And I'm going to have to start, unfortunately, talking about the price of Tether, which has seen more volatility than the price of Bitcoin or ETH, which should give you several red flags. Now, I think Tether is fine. I have no issues with Tether. I think all the people with Tether hate is misdirected, misguided. You're going to see headlines tomorrow. Tether's losing its peg, blah, 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 right? If you haven't already. Let's break that down and why that's silly as a headline, but important to understand what the heck's actually probably going on here. So Tether's market price, this is the market price on Kraken specifically, which doesn't necessarily have a robust market, meaning it does have times where liquidity is low, and if you want to dump 10 million Tether into the book and drop the price, you can. That doesn't mean Tether's sitting on the other side of that, the company absorbing that, okay? Tether isn't on every exchange. Tether doesn't care. I'm not a Tether defender. I'm just saying, look, this is what's going on. This is the reality. So what we have currently, like we've had previously, if we look at what happened in FTX and when there was Tether concerns, when we look at the USDC concerns and what happened to Tether, if Tether price goes up, that means there's more demand, right? If Tether price goes down, there's usually more selling pressure. Deltec is a bank in the Bahamas that's synonymous with Tether for most people. So anytime they see any Deltec headline, they just assume all bajillion of the reserves are gone forever, right? So of course that's going to sell off. Then you have this self-fulfilling doom loop on DeFi and within DeFi, where I'm guessing certain levels are reached in price on the Tether and the 3 pool. I'll show that in a second if you're unaware, but basically Curve is a place where you can transact stablecoins and other stablecoins or whatever else, right? It's kind of like an FX type function. At least that's how I view it. I can give you my DAI, or I can give Curve my DAI, and I can take out Tether. Or if I want to get rid of Tether, I'm going to shove Tether into the 3 pool and take out USDC or DAI, okay? Now the 3 pool generally is evenly balanced. It should be evenly balanced, 33%-ish. Historically, that changes depending on a lot of stuff, right? Depending on market prices of Tether, depending on market prices of USDC, depending on what's going on with DAI, that can adjust. On top of that, we had the Curve hack, the Curve loan drama, which I think is just adjacently related, but it's part of what's going on here probably. So now we've got all sorts of Binance problems. FUD, I think, is another misguided word here for Binance because something's going on. The rumors are China's going after them, DOJ's going after them, China's going after Huobi, China's going after Justin Sun and CZ. There's all of these rumors, but all I can see is what's happening on the chart. I can see somebody selling Tether, whether it's any of those parties or somebody else. Somebody's selling Tether for USD on Kraken. Somebody's selling Tether at a loss, more importantly, for USD. So this tells me they're trying to get out. They're trying to get out quickly. Additionally, they're doing the same thing on the Curve pool, and they're doing the same thing on the Uni pool. I'll get to those in a second on the DeFi side of things. But as far as all of the ways you can try to exit quickly, you can use centralized exchanges, right? You can use Kraken. You can use Coinbase. You can convert anything to USDC, anything out of USDC for free. So that is probably playing a role here. And while USDC keeps getting drained, people are talking about a vampire attack. And you can also use the DeFi side of things, where there are a ton of bridges, there are a ton of DEXs, there are a ton of ways. Not all of them have a lot of liquidity, which is why, people highlight the ones with liquidity like Curve, where you can exit. But there are lots of ways. If you want to find a way to get out of something, you can do it in DeFi. So the Tether price on Kraken for me has always been the canary in the coal mine, regardless of the size of the market. Just because it usually means, okay, either somebody's doing something somewhere else, or they're trying to exit Tether, enter Tether directly on Kraken. Something's going on. It's a really great tool to just use and monitor. So something clearly is not right here. Now it is the weekend, and we'll see what happens come Monday when wires are open on the legacy side of things. But let's keep going here. And if we discuss what's happened a little bit, I'm not going to re-summarize each of these events, but there have been events over the past year that have in one way or another benefited Tether or benefited USDC in the yellow here. These are the circulating supplies. The bottom line here is true USD's market cap. TUSD, as it's known. So the current running theory is that potentially we are seeing some interesting issuances on relatively unknown stablecoins, and we are somehow converting those stablecoins into USDC and then exiting the system in some way. Again, whether that's through centralized exchanges or DeFi. So on top of already the issues with rates and regulation for stablecoins, for USDC specifically in the United States, if someone's trying to get USD, this is one way they can be exiting the system quickly. Now, arguably, this thing has been just drained, $4 billion in 4 months or something like that. So maybe that's not quickly, but this big chunk was the Binance USDC auto conversion when they basically kicked everything but Tether off the exchange. So yeah, in my plums, I think something's probably going on with Binance, and really this is another smoking gun for Binance.com. Binance US, who knows what those prices are? Those market makers left months ago. Something else you can plot on the chart when we're looking at a Binance Premium. But Binance.com recently, within the past couple days here, has had a premium on the BTC USD pair. Not on the Tether pair, not on the FD USD pair, specifically on the USD pair. So this tells me someone is buying BTC with USD. That's what it looks like. And it looks to be currently unarbable, meaning you don't have a party here closing this spread between any of these currencies on Binance.com, as well as the differential between Coinbase and Binance.com. Binance has lost wires pretty much, I want to say USD wires. I don't know if they even have USD wires out anymore. But it's interesting that all this stuff coincides with Kraken and the USDT USD pair. It also coincides with the 3 pool being super imbalanced. And again, you have some sort of doom loop with the amount of Tether in the pool and the price of Tether. So nevertheless, people are attempting to exit Tether quickly based on the composition of the 3 pool. And then just another bigger pool to look at on Uniswap, the USDC USDT pool, currently heavily imbalanced on the Tether side. So does anybody know exactly what's going on? I don't think so, but clearly whatever's going on isn't a good thing for the crypto side of things. Now, I'd like to think this gets resolved by this week, whether that's through legal action, through somebody, I don't know, something comes to light here, but I can't imagine this gets more imbalanced this week without something resolving or breaking. Something's going to happen, I'd think, this week, I'd hope. And I think it's going to coincide with prices collapsing on crypto, unfortunately, in the bearish direction. So before I talk about BTC and ETH, let's talk about KrakenPro, today's video sponsor. KrakenPro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. KrakenPro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out KrakenPro with a link in the description of this video. Personally use KrakenPro, I've used it for years. Very excited when they updated their UI and it came into the 21st century, whatever here. One interesting thing specifically about Kraken is they do have this USDT USD market. And hey, we may see more volatility in this market this week than Bitcoin. So one interesting strategy is to, play these wicks on USDT. Not financial advice, certainly, but, have a gander. And things may get spicy. Definitely something to watch. And something that I rarely ever talk about or discuss or watch is the order book, which on stablecoins a lot of the time is automated in some way. But if you start to see, as we're kind of seeing now, slowly the bid side get drained, right? As we approach new levels, that's going to be problematic. And things might get super interesting below 997, just based on this order book, right? That's not to say what happens on Curve or anywhere else. But anyway, just someplace interesting to watch and or trade all this unfolding here. Now, on the Bitcoin side of things, really nothing's happened, right? We continue to get drained. We continue to just slowly trickle lower lows, volume essentially zero, volatility essentially zero, barely holding 29K here. Certainly coming up to a multi-month diagonal year to date, 8-month diagonal. So I would think if we do break down, I would expect an attempt at a retest of the current local low, which would be 25K. Also the inverted head and shoulders neckline. Now I think the difference between this stuff currently and the previous head and shoulder slow death falling wedge was that it was, to me at the time, pretty clear that that was a falling wedge and made more sense maybe than this. Maybe this looks like a better falling wedge on lower time frames, but feels like a stretch. To me, that's the only bullish argument I can see here, is that, okay, maybe this is another falling wedge. Great. Anything exchange related exploding, not going to be good for price. It's not going to matter for Bitcoin, but it's not going to be good for price. Anything ETF related for BlackRock that's positive is going to be amazing for price, right? We're just at this cliff where we're waiting for a news catalyst of any kind. And if it sounds negative, it's probably going to bring price down, even though it's not going to matter, right? If it sounds positive, those headlines tend to matter for inflows, but those are the things I'd watch this week. Something else to watch would be if we get a lower low on RSI and a higher low in price relative to 25K, that would be a hidden bullish divergence, which historically means or suggests continuation. I hesitate to talk in absolutes. Only Siths talk in absolutes. Anyway, the other thing here, bearish on the side of things, also just, I can't shake this head and shoulders, whatever it is, right? It's not that, but at the same time it is. It is a series of highs that just look lethargic and ready to roll over here. We have a ton of MA confluence here, meaning everybody's here, right? The whole party, the whole gang is here. We got the 50, we got the 200 down here. We've got the 20 week, and we've got the 200 week. Okay, all the EMAs are here. On top of that, we've got a yearly pivot. So I would really, if you're bullish, right? If you're bearish, you want to see us just crush all of these, get below 25K, break below the yearly pivot. The yearly pivot's also here. To me, that would be extremely bearish. If you're bullish, you want to see us get somewhere in the midst of like 27. I think that would be a good point. That's the 200 week, 200 day, yearly pivot. Hopefully we put in that bullish div like I was talking about. That would be best case, I think. But I do think we break down here. Also, by the way, the daily cloud right here, right? Now 27 is going to be in the cloud, but whatever. A conservative approach to this would be you're waiting on the short side of things, you're waiting on price below the cloud with a bearish ticket cross to the bearish cloud. If we get all of that and we're through all these MAs like butter, like a hot knife through butter, and we don't make a bull div, right? Then I think it's fairly safe to get extremely bearish at that point. But we're not quite there yet. Something to watch, definitely. Also, we are on the weekly cloud. In the weekly cloud, arguably, you could take this trade. This is officially edge-to-edge material. We've closed inside the cloud. This is it, okay? So your stop loss would be either the cloud, the Tenkin, or the Kijun, but those stop losses all are pretty terrible because they're either too tight or they're too far away. Now the breakout is 42. That's the target, right? So, maybe if you want to have bids spread between 22 and 27, I think that's a viable strategy. I still like the edge-to-edge potential here. I think that's eventually going to play out. I just think in the meantime, we need some clarity on what the heck's going on with Binance and Huobi and stablecoins and regulations. So unfortunately, I do think that brings us lower probably this week. Here's the Bollinger Bands, which don't really tell you much because yes, we've consolidated for 6 weeks above the midline. We're super tight, the tightest we've ever been. If you're just trading Bollinger Bands, you're saying, look, Josh, this is bullish. I don't care what you say. And that's fine. That's a viable strategy, but where are your stops? Are your stops at any lower low? We've made lower lows for like 6 weeks in a row. So be careful with that. Another way to look for bearishness is if we start breaking below this weekly B band at 25. That's another very bearish signal, much like it was in March, much like there was a bullish signal in January when we started closing above the top of the band. So I think there's plenty to watch on Bitcoin. I think there's plenty of areas to help make a better decision, but I don't think there's anything that's screaming in the moment. Certainly bullish. I'm definitely leaning bearish. on how I see things. That doesn't mean we can't go up. I think it's going to be very hard to go up with all the stuff that's swirling around. On ETH, the ascending triangle potentially at risk here. I've been watching this for months and kept saying 2K, 2K, 2K. That's still the case. If we close above 2K, right? If this ETF ETH stuff gets approved, maybe for some miraculous reason, we close above 2K. If the ETH ETFs get denied, I'd expect a muted bearish reaction. We certainly didn't have a bullish reaction on any of the applications. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But it would be inflows on the institutional side of things. Ultimately, this pattern is negated with any lower low below 1600. Now volume, again, it's just not there. So if you're just trading this pattern, I think you're still waiting. I think you're nervous, but I think you're still waiting. Depending on how you want to draw these diagonal supports, there's still a bit of time. This is a 3-day chart, so it's got more time than it maybe looks like. Zoomed a little bit year to date. For me, we're coming up on a tighter diag than Bitcoin. We've been flatter on ETH than Bitcoin, and I don't think we hold 16 if we start to break down. I don't think we consolidate this long without breaking resistance or support and just going nowhere. I think we're going to see a pretty violent reaction one way or the other. Does it lean bearish? Again, here's, you tell me, does this look like a bullish pattern to you? I don't think so. So in the moment, I think this would break down. We zoom in even more on the past couple of days, past couple of months. Again, every single lower time frame price action analysis that I can come up with, I don't know, maybe I just have bear goggles on, but doesn't look bullish to me. You could argue, again, maybe some sort of falling wedge here, or I don't know. Every high that ETH has had has just been smack down, smack down, smack down. So that to me isn't a market that wants to go up. And it's really on thin ice down here at just above 1800. So if we do break down, I like a pit stop at 17 to 1750. But ultimately, based on the amount of time we've spent consolidating, I don't think we just stop there. I think eventually that's going to lead to lower lows. On the other hand, ETH has benefited from all those ETF applications, I believe, based on the structure, based on the premium actually closing the most it's closed in quite some time, somewhere around 35%. So again, this is a problem like I talked about a couple times. If people are trading this over spot and they're saying, oh, there's a 35% discount on this, why would I bother trading spot? That's a valid argument, and I agree with you. So, if ETH spot breaks down heavily and you're connected to brokerages or whatever else, certainly ETH, if you like ETH over BTC, or if you think the discount's bigger, whatever, certainly a viable option. I think bids anywhere in ETH from 750 to 9, probably totally fine, if we break down. And I would definitely pay attention to the discount if we get any news on the ETF application side of things. Because if the discount closes, regardless of what spot is doing, to me, that is a trade close signal. I don't think the discount would close that much because these are futures applications that for the most part are getting sent to the SEC. But anyway, that's kind of in the weeds. Just something to watch. And then lastly, I'll talk about, legacy, another fear coming to fruition here that we were decoupled on the way up and we may recouple on the way down if this continues to be a down week for the S&P. Certainly based on technicals, very probable that it's another down week, or just general weakness. RSI broke the trend, arguably multi-month target has been hit, low time frame rising wedge, bearish divergence. There's tons of stuff here that just says to me, okay, hit the pivot to the penny. Okay. It's just time to let this thing relax. Daily Kijun somewhere around 4350, 200-day moving average at 4100. So this may mean revert a little bit, and we may, on the crypto side of things, experience that as well, to the downside. So something to watch for there. And just some individuals here. Apple broke its multi-month channel, definitely, right? Broke the Tenkin, broke the Kijun, just crushing lows here on news that sales weren't so good. I'll just say it like that. This is a 2-day Kijun target at 170, but I'd watch for weakness on any of the majors, I guess. Microsoft also doesn't look so hot on the cloud. Cloud is very likely this week going to tell the Microsoft people, I'm looking at myself here, it's time to get out of the pool. you had a really good run here, as we probably get a bearish TK cross on Microsoft on the daily. And then potentially this sets up for an edge to edge from, I don't know, 330 to 306 potentially. But 306 would be the level to the downside to watch for. Nvidia, very much the same thing, but actually to me more overbought. Continuous higher highs, continuous lower lows in RSI. And I think we all at this point know that this thing is mega overextended, regardless of your feelings of AI. So RSI showing me early signs that from a technical perspective that this thing probably doesn't hold highs much longer up here. Certainly doesn't scream short, but it says, hey, be careful if you're still long. Definitely. Cloud not yet even close to crossed, but definitely a momentum weakness on the RSI. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but if we're having complications with oil and gas prices rising, certainly on technicals, this looks very good for bullish continuation based on a multi-month Adam and Eve. On the fundamental side, not that I know anything about oil, but they've, keep cutting, OPEC keeps cutting supply. That doesn't mean supply doesn't exist. Doesn't mean demand is high enough to need the supply, even though demand is quite high. Depending on how you want to think about that, you can make a bullish or bearish argument. Anyway, on the technicals, that which I know, Adam and Eve, no doubt, bullish Kumo breakout in July. And the only thing I think to watch for here would be this TKC clamp. This may morph into some sort of ascending triangle, but if this does reach into the high 90s, that may be a problem for inflation, a problem for risk assets, and may make it interesting during election time, but that's a year plus away. Anyway, that's all for this one. Dislike, comment, share, subscribe. For the few people that are still here in the summer, I promise you action very likely soon, based on what I can tell. Happy trading.